Welcome to Changing Suits. We're your hosts, Bal
and Taj, discussing the latest news, views, and general life for us Western Asians.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hi, welcome to Changing Suits. My name's Bal.
And my name's Taj.
So today we've got quite an exciting episode. So you might remember a little while ago, we had the lovely Navneet join us on the podcast to talk about Desi parenting and how obviously we are not Desi parents. We don't pick up any of those Desi traditions that our parents passed on to us. But today we are going to find out if that's in fact true, because we've got Navneet's lovely son, Mehtab, joining us on the show. So we're going to see if we can start a bit of a fight between mother and son and get the truth. Hi, Navneet. How are you today?
Good. Thank you, ladies. I'm so excited to be back. It was such a pleasure the first time, and we got so much attention for that podcast. I'm really excited to be here again. Lovely. And with my boy.
And with your boy, of course. Yeah. Hi, Mehtab. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How about you guys?
Yeah, doing well, thank you.
Brilliant.
So just a bit of an introduction to yourself, Mehtab. So firstly, how old are you? What do you do as a profession? And what do you enjoy doing outside of just working, I guess?
Yeah, so I'm 21. I'm a software engineer, self-taught. And I enjoy playing hockey, hanging out with my friends, taking my dog for a walk, hanging out with family, that sort of thing.
I don't think you've given yourself enough credit, because it really was, wow, amazing when you just told me that you opened up your own consultancy at the age of 18. To be honest, I didn't even know what I wanted to do at 18. So well done to, who shall I say, Mehtab or Navneet?
Oh, it's a team effort for sure.
I like that answer.
I love the fact that Taj went straight in there to try something, stirring something up.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, so in regards to the previous episode that we did with yourself, Navneet, we did look at, obviously you are a counsellor, so you do have a lot of South Asian clients who come in, and you've seen the influence of the South Asian tradition, I guess, on the second generation of kids that have come to the UK, or whether it's Canada or America. Now, from your own perspective, do you think you have had on bringing up your child more of a Desi sort of style or more of a Western sort of influence?
To be honest, I think it's definitely a mix, but it's a very focused and concentrated effort, because at the end of the day, it's in our DNA. That's how we were raised. It's very hard to sort of just switch that off just because we are in a different country. So a lot of, my parents' voices, my elders' voices, that is still always with me. And so I think, it's not good or bad. There's just impacts of parenting in general, right? So there's so much we want to teach our kids to be empathetic and be kind and caring and all of that. But at the same time, I need to be making sure that, I'm not doing it in a demanding way, or that it would impact his mental health even, for example. So it's really a fine balance and a learning curve.
Should we backpedal a little bit? What do we mean by Desi parenting, just in a nutshell?
Yeah, so just in sort of that collectivist, coming from that collectivist perspective, the way we've been parented in terms of, sort of the expectations that are set upon us. Sometimes, it's that tough love and tough discipline, thinking, that we're protecting our children. But there's, of course, ramifications for that, right? So it's that sort of traditional parenting that we've seen, right? You have to do it this way, or this is how it's going to be, or comparing our kids to others, those sort of traditional.
As soon as Navneet said comparing kids to others, me and Bal were nodding our heads, smiling away and thinking, yep, we know what you mean.
Yes, because we do it ourselves. Okay.
I'm not going to admit that, but okay.
No, I'm joking. Of course we don't. Those targets at school set, of course, aren't for comparisons. Okay, so in regards to the fact that obviously Tad referred earlier to the fact that you have set up your own consultancy at 18. Now, that is a very young age to be doing um, that kind of thing and really thinking about what profession you're going to go into and how you can make a life for yourself. Would you say, Mehtab, that you got pushed into doing any of this stuff?
Would I say I was pushed into it?
Yeah. So
Oh no.
where your mum said, the demanding aspect of a traditional Desi parenting. Now,
Right.
from our point of view, we've all been there. We've been the first generation where our parents have come over, and there has been a bit of pressure of, this is what I want you to do. This is where, university, then go for your job. It doesn't matter what you actually want yourself.
Yeah.
But do you find now that you're, I suppose, third generation, that you had that same sort of pressure or influence by your parents?
No, absolutely not. From the very beginning, I was told that I can do anything, I can be anything that I set my mind to. I was given opportunities to try different things. I played guitar, I played hockey, and I was allowed to explore my options rather than, doctor, lawyer, or, engineer, right? Um, and for the longest time, I did want to go into medicine. And it was at the around the end of high school where I decided that that wasn't the route for me, and I decided to go the computer science path instead.
Now, computer science in itself is one of the things that Desi parents would push their children into, but you've picked that on your own accord. Why did you go in that way? Why weren't you, I don't know, an
A hockey star,
actor,
a
a
hockey
hockey
star probably
star?
did,
Yeah.
or a guitar, a musician. What drove you that way?
Right. So, around the age of 14 or 15, I was in a community called the sneaker community. And in that community, we would write software that was able to purchase limited edition shoes at a much faster speed than a human could. And then we would be able to purchase the shoes and resell them for a profit. And that's what got me into the computer science field. And from there, it's just been I've been in love with it since.
While you're saying that, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get my kids who are only 9 and 6 to go into something similar. It
Yeah.
sounds really good to me.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it is interesting when you said about the programming, just with the fact that you said it, you can see that obviously there was obviously no pressure because you actually enjoyed this just from your
Yeah.
explanation there, which is really good to hear. But then do you think there is, forget the desi sort of parenting the pressure, how about the external pressure as well? Because we're always seeing, people like the Amazons, the Elon Musks of the world are making this much money out of computers. So it is interesting because then it's not the influence that desi parenting has, it's then the external Western world would have. Would you say that is true or false in somewhat?
In terms of external pressure, I've always had a drive to be the best that I can be in any aspect of my life. So I knew that I didn't just want to go to school, get a job, and be sort of unhappy in my job for the rest of my life. And I know that if you can work for yourself, then uh, it gives you more options and more opportunities. So I feel like that was the biggest pressure for me is just making my life the best that it can be for myself.
See, that's interesting because you said, I want to be happy in what I do. Now, this wasn't something as when we were growing up that we
Oh
were
yeah.
taught about. It was, you do this. There was nothing mentioned about mental health, happiness. So, what has happened in this situation that you have? What's brought up you thinking, okay, I want to be happy in what I do?
So my mom would always tell me that, when you find a career, uh, make sure it's something you enjoy because you'll be doing it for a long portion of your life, right?
Yeah.
And that's been instilled in my mind, and I've realized that that's the truth, right? At the end of the day, we need to pick something that we enjoy, so we don't wake up miserable and go to bed. Oh, I got to go to work the next morning. I get excited because every day is a new day in my job, right? So yeah, I had. That's what led me up this way for sure.
So the flip side, if I can interject, is, I was right, that typical, you go to university, you get a job, you stay in that job for 20, 30 years, you retire there, and that's right. So that's going to be your pension, and that's going to be, so we didn't have options of making money in different ways, doing different things. What do you mean there's not 9 to 5 anymore? Like, there's other ways of working. So giving him that, like, he saw sort of, I guess, that unhappiness in when what I was doing.
Mm.
And then me being, it's okay if he doesn't go to university right away. It's okay if he doesn't get a job. It's okay with what people will say, right? Because that's in the back of my mind. Oh no, naniki kogi, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Oh no, right?
Mm.
But I had to, part of the parenting, be okay with letting him experience those things and figure it out.
It's really interesting, actually, because with that whole scenario, it's a case of with us, and obviously it's changed quite a lot. Well, I think quite a lot. I don't know. You can tell me. But you'd go to high school, go university, and well, before university, some people used to actually travel or go travel during university, and that's something that we never did.
Mm-hmm.
But what was the response from family of, the consultancy or anything different that you did? What did Naniji say?
Uh, well, I told her that I had started my own business during COVID, and she was happy for me, right? But she didn't know
That's because she's
that.
thinking Saddam Mundahan business band the man hoga.
Yeah. But she also didn't know that meant that I might not finish my degree at university, right?
Oh
What?
my
Um,
God. Did
I hope.
yeah,
did you
why
not
not? Why not
mention
do
that bit?
both, right?
I
Did
hope.
you not mention that bit? That's the question.
I may have forgotten to mention that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so funny you said that, because just this week, so I've been trying to, like, explain to her, okay, well, mom, I'm not sure about school. This is what he wants to do, and then she sort of turns around. She knows now computers is the way, like, this is life. But it's advanced study karda.
He's a genius.
Yeah,
My
it's just like
son.
he's figuring it out on his own.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Mom, you're saying this? Like, why couldn't you have said that to me and saved me a lot of turmoil?
But why
Yeah,
do you
no.
think that is? Sorry, Mehtab. Why do you think that she had that reaction then? Because that isn't the reaction she would have had with yourself, Navneet.
No way.
I was just as surprised because majority of my family members, of course, they said you need that paper in your hand, right? Just get that paper in your hand and then you're set, right? Um, and even my grandma did say it at first. She said, "You're going to finish your studies, right?" And at the time, I was still questioning. I said, "Yeah, I might, right?" But that I was shocked when she said that. She said, "So what if he doesn't want to do the stuff in school? He's taught himself, and he's making a life for himself," which was a shock to me.
Do you know the Desi in me made me think, oh my God, why didn't he finish his studies?
Yeah,
But then I feel almost very proud of you that you've gone it alone. You're doing something that you've learnt by yourself, and you've just gone out there. A very brave thing to do.
yeah. It took a lot of commitment, for sure.
Yeah, so he started with, like, teaching. He got his first car, doing all the oil changes, all the, like, repairs. He never took it to a shop. Like, he did YouTube did, figured it out, got the parts.
Is
One
that
day
because the Desi in him is trying to save money?
no.
No, definitely not.
Obviously not. Look, both of them are laughing. You obviously didn't save any money there.
No.
Yeah, not. And then one day he says, "I'm gonna make a computer." I said,
Oh.
like, what? So I said, okay. And he's like, yeah, I need these parts and this, and it's gonna cost this. So I said, here's the money. You order what you want, and he literally built the computer from the first. What, I don't even call it a bolt, but the
CPU.
yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Mehtab.
Yeah.
Okay,
Not.
so on that point, where you said, you gave him the money, and it sounds like you were very supportive of this. Do you think that's the positive of a Desi parent? So regardless of the fact that before people used to push them into university, and to be fair, our parents did support us through university. You know, I didn't actually need to worry about getting a job and going through that pressure. But that's the positive of having those traditions as well, because not many people, other cultures do have that.
Right. If we allow it, right? Somebody can turn around and say, oh, base krab karne waste. Who knows, right? So if we, because I don't know, I didn't know that a commuter is going to get made or what's going to happen. But he had a full, I said, how will we know if I don't let him try? I might just end up with a bunch of parts at the end that sit in the living room. But, if I don't let him try, how are we going to know? So that's the difference, right?
Because there's that trust element in there. You're saying,
Yeah.
okay, you've decided something, I'm going to support you. But
Mhm.
I don't think in my time, first of all, I wouldn't have been so courageous as you, Mehtab, to be honest. I don't think our parents would have been like, go for it. I think they would have been more like, carry on studying. What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah, or samurchkarle when you have time or when you're free, and right. Those are like sort of side activities.
But I do have a question, Mehtab. So when you were saying, you didn't finish your studies because you wanted to do this, da, da, da. The first thing I thought was, well, why didn't you finish your studies and then do it? Which is going back to the whole Desi sort of vibe, I guess.
Yeah.
What stopped you from doing that?
I received many offers and opportunities during my studies outside of school, and I felt like I gave the analogy to my mom the day I told her that I didn't want to continue. Is when we
Navneet is
walk
showing us her tears.
when when we walk our dog he's an amazing dog, but when we go for walks he pulls a lot, right? And I felt like I was being pulled on that leash. Like I wanted to move forward, but I couldn't. I was being held back because limited time. I had to focus on 1 + 1 = 2, right? And I did not want that to be in my life anymore. I wanted to have the full time for myself so that I can really commit to this and do it how I want to do it.
I would have let you do it because the way you've just explained it, I'm sorry, you've done it for me. Go on, Karla Jogana.
And that's what happened. Yeah, that's exactly what happened, Taj and Bal. Like I could believe me, I cried. I went in, I said, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And more importantly, I started to worry, how am I going to explain this to people? How am I going to explain it to my family? How, like, my friends, everybody, because I just finished my master's and he's not going to finish. So, but I really had to work on it as a counselor in this career supporting South Asians. I said, if I don't support my boy and give him this chance, then I'm an imposter. I'm not being truthful to all my clients who come and see me. I said, I have to do this.
Oh, wow.
And so I really had to do my own work to be okay with it, to be honest.
A massive thank you to the National Lottery for supporting Changing Suits
in raising awareness of mental health in the South Asian community.
So what are the steps that you took to be okay with it? Because that in itself is a process, isn't it? Because like you said, you're facing the family, you're facing the community, and it's almost, but we all do this. Okay, what is everyone going to say? What am I going to put across? Am I going to tell them the whole story?
Yeah. So when we talk about, bachandi parvarish and nurturing, the first thing that came to mind was, I cannot enforce or instill my dreams or wishes onto my child. This little, little, but he's big now. But now he gets a chance to, I have to be supportive to help him figure out who he wants to be. Because I can't tell him who he should be. That won't work.
Can I just ask, so obviously in that process, Navneet, you did actually feel the pressure of, oh, what will people say? The thing that always comes up in it, pretty much all of our podcasts. But Mehtab, did you feel that same pressure of what will people say?
No.
That is
In a
so
simple
interesting.
answer, no.
The funny thing is, when Bal asked you that question, your eyes were almost like, why is she asking me this? Is this even a thing?
Yeah. No, it's because it's true, right? Like the way I've been raised, it's just, well, not not that I wouldn't consider their opinion, but at the end of the day, if I've made my decision, why would it matter what other people think, right? It's my life, and I'm going to live it how I want to, right?
So, Navneet, do you think we are doing well as generation bringing up our kids? Because now we're explaining to our, well, we're not probably not even explaining it, but our kids aren't so bothered about what's the community says, what the family said. It's about what if they're happy in themselves. So, could we say, well done, pat on the back to us?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we've sort of, we've experienced it from that end. It doesn't feel good receiving that information or worrying of what people will say or, oh my God, we're going to upset mom and dad now. So to, be open with our kids that, okay, hey, yeah, we're going to give you the opportunity. I always told them, whatever you got to do something, sitting around and playing video games maybe all day won't be okay, but figure out what you want to do and then you do your best at whatever that is.
Say he was sitting around all day playing video games. How would you have handled that?
Yeah,
Because then you
yeah,
would have been a pushy parent.
exactly. So right, that balance of, okay, yeah, there's time. We do have to give them that time. Sometimes they just need that. Like they can't have those pressures, right? Because there's mental health stuff going on maybe we don't know about, right? Like that's even one of the signs, like sort of in their room playing games, not feeling very motivated. So we need to be mindful of those things, right? Like we absolutely need to give them downtime, but to say that downtime, like where's the productivity at some point? That's where sort of that, I guess maybe the traditional Desi parenting, that tough love comes in, right? Where we need to be doing or working towards something.
The interesting thing from the last podcast was, well,
Mm-hmm.
firstly, can I just say, Mehtab, what you've said when you spoke earlier, I have actually, even whilst you've been speaking, thinking, oh my God, that's exactly what I need to apply to certain parts of my life. Just as you're saying it, because I have
Yeah,
had a stressful life,
yeah.
stressful week, should I say, not a life. And had I applied your theory to it and practice, it would really be quite helpful. So
Yeah,
it is interesting what we can learn from the next generation.
yeah, for sure.
The other thing I wanted to ask from the last episode that we did with you, Navneet,
Mm-hmm.
there's certain bits that I have actually gone out when I'm talking to friends and said, you know what, after this podcast, this is what came out of it. And it's something you just mentioned, if they're happy, if your children are happy, whether, making sure Mehtab is happy in whatever he's doing, we're good. Now, on the last episode, we sort of discovered, or what we already knew, but we said it on the podcast, of we are of that generation where we had to look back and make sure that our parents were okay and had that traditional sort of view. And then looking forward, saying to our kids, make sure you're happy. Don't worry about me. Now, Medab, I just wanted to get your opinion on that sort of thing of our generation where we were sort of looking both ways, making sure that everybody was okay. And then we forgot about our own mental health. What would you say in regards to that? Would you say that is a fair sort of way of looking at our generation, or are we just feeling sorry for ourselves?
Yeah, no, so my mom, I feel like my mom, we're in this situation quite a bit because my mom will say, "Oh, I do a lot for others, this, that," but we forget to look out for ourselves as well. And I know from my personal experience, I tell my mom that, it's good to help out others, but you need to be looking out for yourself as well. It's not selfish to look out for yourself or even put your feelings before others as long as it's not at their cost, right? Make sure you're happy, and that's very, very important.
Question: what if it was at the cost of someone else then?
Yeah, then again, it depends on the severity, but you don't want to be the one that's hurting others just to make yourself feel better, right? Yeah,
What if in that, and this is where I'm going to start digging a bit deeper because this was something
for
that really
sure.
did, it definitely hit home from the last episode we did with you. What if, whatever that situation, I can't think from the top of my head, and please, ladies, if you can think of something. What if there was a situation where perhaps helping someone else is, in retrospect, then harming you? Now, in our generation, we would have tended to still carry on with that situation despite it hurting us. What would you say in regards to that? Sorry, Tej.
So I was going to say, I think the situation you're thinking about is, for example, with us, we think about we have to look after our parents, and then that might be the risk of maybe our relationship there being, I don't know, fights that occur or whatever because you're looking after your family too much. We're kind of putting you on a spot here, Mehtab.
Yeah, for sure. So it may not be the answer that everybody wants to hear, but at the end of the day, I'll stay true to my previous answer. You need to look out for yourself first, and whether that means there'll be confrontation after, maybe there will, maybe there won't. But at your own cost, you can't be looking out for others while it's hurting you, right? Yeah.
And that's where, the healthy boundaries. So this is something our generation is learning. Like, what are these healthy boundaries? So he says, mom, you got to look after yourself, got to take care, of you. But I got to turn around and say, Mehtab, sometimes I got to say no to you then too. Like, that means, no, I'm not going, like, the food is there. You can warm it up. I won't like cater, to you because I'm going to take 10 minutes and I'm going to go for a walk or whatever, right? It's a huge learning curve for us. Like, I still struggle with that, but okay, if I'm going to model that or that's the expectation, then I have to do it for me too.
I feel like it's come full circle. We were teaching the kids, and now the kids are teaching us. And what they're teaching us isn't a bad lesson. It's very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
because there's only so much we can do and only so much we can give. And we've just learned, and especially as women and ladies, right? We just dish it out. "Kuriyan kar diyan," just keep doing it, keep doing it. But yeah, at what cost? At the cost of mental health, at the cost of relationships, at the cost of happiness. Like, at what cost?
It is, yeah. This conversation really, like I said, it hits home, and even Mehtab, that answer is a bit of an eye opener for me as well, because obviously it is something that we do need to learn as a generation. Of this is why we are where we are. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Do you think, Mehtab, that as you're growing, do you feel like that you are teaching your parents more than, well, not more than they taught you, that's a bad way of putting it, but do you feel like there is a bit of a teaching that you're giving to your parents?
Yeah, I would say so. Maybe even my mom can answer this question because she tells me a lot of the time that she feels that she learns from me and I'm inspirational or however you say it. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, I think the last 20 years have been learning and moments for me, aha moments and growing moments where, yeah, like, they say, oh, he's such a good kid, he's so mature, for example, right? But at the end of the day, I'll be like, sometimes I don't know who's the parent, because what comes out of his mouth sometimes is so wise, and I really have to stop and reflect and think about it. So it's true, as much as I try to give him what I've learned or what I know to be true. At the same time, if I'm open and communicating with him, he's teaching me just as much.
But do you think that does a big part come down to the fact that you are also a counselor and you're seeing this from the client's point of view? Do you think in other households where you don't have that perspective or that experience, that it might be slightly different?
I don't know how much that I think that only enhances it. But to be honest, like, that's something very new in my life, and but our relationship has been like this from the beginning, and as he's been going to school and junior high and high school. So I think it's just sort of been there. It's just because I always told him, like, there's nothing that you can't come and talk to me about. And mom might get mad. I might be mad, but you can still come to me, talk to me, let me know how things are going. I'm there for you. So he's very open to, like, mom, this is going on.
now we touched on this before about basically going back to mental health,
Mm-hmm.
say if there is an issue with your child, what are the signs of this? For example, teenage years are very difficult in themselves, hormones, just maybe getting into the wrong crowd, online stuff, that's the biggest thing at the moment. What signs should we look out for to see, okay, something's not quite right?
Yeah. So I like from a parent, perspective, when your kid, when they're isolating, they're in their room a lot, they're not talking as much, they're not enjoying or engaging in conversation, sometimes lack of eye contact, even where, sort of they're not hanging out with their friends anymore, or they don't want to go to school, sleep troubles, tummy troubles, not wanting to eat, changes in appetite. Those are all sort of signs that there could be something more going on. And I'm
And
sure Mehtab can talk about it, from his friend's perspective, things that he's seen.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of signs for sure. I used to stay in my room a lot. Since I was a kid, I would always wake up early. But when I went through it, I'd be up, I'd be in bed until 1 p.m. Right? My mom would come in my room. You're still sleeping, right? Obviously, those are signs of you don't want to get up in the morning because you know what your day is gonna feel like, and you don't want that feeling, right? So we stay in bed. We lose interest in the activities that brought us more joy when we were younger. I know that I stopped playing hockey because I couldn't I didn't enjoy it the same way I did when I was younger, and that was hard, right? It's hard when you lose that love for what you enjoy. Um, but yeah, those are some of the major signs. Yeah.
I'm not sure how old you were when you were going through this. Do you think you did suffer from anxiety and stress, or do you think that's just part of life and growing up, where you do start sort of understanding, yes, I like this, no, I don't like this? What's your opinion, Madhab?
It's definitely a bit of both because I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression, but it is also going through the motions and growing up and all that sort of thing. So when you mix those together, it's not usually a great outcome, right? Had I been healthier in my mental, I would have been able to go through it like any other child. But I had a bit of difficulties going through it because of those things.
Can I ask how old you were when you were diagnosed with anxiety and depression in that case?
16 or 17 was it?
Yeah, grade 11
Yeah,
ish or so.
yeah,
Right, and we were
yeah.
just talking about that. Like he was like, "Oh, mom, I wish I would have stayed in hockey, or you would have like uh, forced me or made me continue." And I was thinking back, and I thought, you know what? I said, "But you did guitar. You didn't want to play. You did dole. Then you didn't want to play. You did swimming, soccer. Then you right, and hockey. Like I took you for 10 years, and at some point, but we also dealt with a lot of bullying and discrimination, as when, as kids move up in sports and those elite levels, we face it. And I think I shied away from that, like not wanting my son to experience that or be part of that.
Okay, can I pick up on something that's
Yeah.
really interesting that you just said? So,
Hmm.
Madhab, you said to your mum, "I wish you had pushed me into that and carried it on." Now, going back to what we were saying earlier, where we try not to be pushy parents because it's seen as the Desi sort of traditional way of doing it. Has that then turned around where you think that we haven't been Desi enough and not pushed you in doing it?
Uh, yeah. When it comes to the things like dole or guitar, I played them for 2 3 months and I was done with it, right? But hockey was something that was different. We had a hockey net before we had a TV in our house when I was
what?
younger, right? Yeah. I
How
was
did this
like
happen?
I was like 2 years old with my hockey stick just running around the house. Um and so obviously there's something there, right? There's no doubt about it. I feel like with that I needed I wish I was pushed a little bit more, but don't give up now. Like look how far you've come, right?
Okay, so the question there is, are we still that generation that then gets blamed for trying not to be Desi because it's the backwards way of doing something? But now all of a sudden we're blamed for not following through, in which
Yeah,
case we're sort of stuck again in our
Rock in a hard
generation.
place, as they say.
yeah. It's definitely a tough balance, but I think the right way about it is, and it's not a perfect science, but it's trying to pick the right moments to do so, right? Obviously, I didn't have a love for soccer. I didn't have a love for basketball. I didn't have a love for school. So being pushed towards those, aspects would have not been a good idea. Whereas hockey, or now, if one day I decide I'm giving up on my computer science, I would really hope that my mom would push me to keep taking that route, right?
See, this is really difficult because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yeah, no, for
Because
sure.
I still, for example, I remember when we were younger, our parents used to push us to go to Punjabi school. We used to go there, play, come back. The next time, oh, Dad, I've got a headache. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter, you're still going. Now, I'm really thankful that my dad did push us to go. But at that time, I did not want to go. I had a stomach ache, I had a headache, I had this ache, I had that ache. But now growing up, it's a different story. Where is the balance?
Yeah,
How?
And at what point don't we get blamed then? Because we don't want to be pushy. And at that point, you obviously didn't want to do hockey. So even if your mum had dragged you kicking us and screaming, you would have thought that was a really out of order thing to do then. But then
yeah,
in retrospect, what you're saying is, well, you should have pushed me. That's a tough one, isn't it?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
No, it's very tough for sure.
But I also knew, like, and he knew, like, that my end thing was I wanted him to play, and I wanted him to continue in university and go that route, right? Play the sports and get the degree. So he knew how I felt, but that was sort of, I guess you can call it the switch, where instead of saying, Jana, you have to go, I said, okay, at some point you're going to realize the consequence or the effect of that, right? At some point, you're going to have to put two and two together, son. Like, that's part of growing up,
What
which
did you,
where we are now.
how did you react to the fact that you've obviously had this conversation prior to the podcast anyway, where Mehtab has said you weren't pushy enough on sending me to hockey then?
Yeah, like it's not an easy one to listen to, because at the time I was, like I said, I was worried about his mental. I said, by pushing him, am I going to push him into more, mental health concerns, or, because right now he's just not feeling it. So I toyed with it, like I cried about it. I said, oh my goodness, like the 5 a.m. practices in the winter and in the snow, like,
Oh,
you
don't. I'm
know,
still doing it.
yeah, exactly. So, oh my goodness, like we sacrifice a lot too. And so, to sort of get there, but it was sort of that if I push him and then that, it doesn't affect his mental health positively, then I'm not any farther ahead either, right? So, yeah.
Do you appreciate that, Mehtab, from your mum's point of view, where she was kind of damned if she did and damned if she didn't in that case?
Absolutely, because it's not like I've forgotten, right? I remember how I used to say, Mom, I don't want to go today. I'm not going today, right? I haven't forgotten that. So I know that there's only so much that she could do. And if I know myself as well, I'm probably one of the most stubborn person anyone will ever meet. And I had made my mind that I didn't want to continue. But I guess maybe it's even my fault, but I wish I had an understanding of how important hockey was to me and to my health. Um, as I've stopped, then you put on some weight, and you lose the friendships that you made during hockey, and that sort of thing.
Can I just say, I mean, I think all of us, every single, it doesn't matter what generation, where you're from, not just South Asians, but I think age does bring a bit of wisdom where you look
Yeah,
back.
Yeah.
So I don't think where you said, maybe I'm to blame. To be fair, it's just part of growing, like Navneet said,
yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's some, obviously a lesson to be learned, right? Things happen for a reason. So Now, exactly, maybe he won't quit like with the computer science, or when he does or has those moments of doubt, he may be able to push through them a bit easier, right? And that's what we can hope for our kids, our clients, however you want to, break it down. That's what it's all about.
See, that's one process in itself, is the regrets that we have as we grow up. We keep torturing ourselves about them, and then
Mm-hmm.
we don't allow ourselves to move forward because we keep thinking what we could have done, what we should have been. Because I know Bal, she blamed me for not her being a what was it, Bal, you wanted to be?
An astronaut. I
An
don't care what
astronaut.
any. Do not laugh at that. It's a real profession.
It is a profession, absolutely.
But the thing is, she always looks back, and we all do this, and we keep regretting what we didn't do, and then we don't allow ourselves to live and carry on and flourish in something else.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now,
So
one of
that's how I explain depression. So depression is exactly those thoughts when we sort of go to, oh, why did it happen this way? Why not this way? What about me? That's what sort of leads to the depressive symptoms, right? It has all to do with our thought process. And exactly. So about you go back to, oh, why didn't I? Or why didn't someone push me? Or why didn't someone let me? That's where it comes from. So, yeah, how do we move past that is to learn to be okay with what's happened, right? And not reacting, right? And being responsible for other people's emotions. All of that come into play in dealing with it.
See, one thing that you spoke about was, we all do this as parents. We want to protect our children. And you
Mm-hmm.
said that you didn't want him to face racism. Now, quite a lot of people in the South Asian community at one point of their life do face racism. Maybe it's for wearing a bodga, maybe it's wearing a turban, maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's simply just our skin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it wrong that we kind of take our children away from that situation, or should we go through the process of dealing with it, showing our child that this does happen, but we're going to take these steps to get through
Mm-hmm.
it?
Yeah. So it's twofold, right? Because I went through like bullying growing up. And to be, fair, like during his, and this happened like sort of 2 consecutive years, but his evaluations, like he did phenomenal in his evaluations. He had 4 points in a game. It was like 2 goals, 2 points, something like this. He did well. And when you come outside and parents are in the lobby, there's parents changing the scores on the, and when
Wow.
yeah, so to see that, and then he got placed almost, I think it was 2 levels below what he should have been. And that was so hard. Like, so not only was it a trigger for me and my own trauma of what I had gone through, and then not wanting him to feel that.
Yeah.
So that protective factor.
And who did you go and slap, Navneet?
So
Not that
that's
we're
where
promoting violence.
right. So again, like I wasn't on the board. I was, I wasn't schmoozing and having dinner with these people and that sort of thing. So it was very tough. But part of me wishes I would have like fought back and done something about it. I don't know, right? So it's, how do you know what the right answer is? But
Okay, so this comes back to the South Asian thing, because
Mhm.
most people, especially in our generation, I don't know how, I suppose it might be different for Mehtab, your generation, but we probably would have done the same thing, where it's like, this is normal, you carry
Yeah.
on. It is unacceptable, and the fact that we have accepted it is on us, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
How would you, and again, in retrospect, we'd all have done something different in regards to that situation. How did that affect you, Mehtab, in the fact that you were being, there was racism there? Did you realize at the time?
Uh, I guess I had an idea of like maybe, but uh, it's not really something that came into my mind as a 8 9 year old, right? I was just there to have fun and play my game, right? Uh, but like, I mean, I was never bullied directly by other kids. It was just sort of the being placed in a lower team than I should have been, and it's not even me saying this. Like my coaches would be like, "Why are you on this team? Right? You should be on a higher team."
Oh.
And I would sometimes even get called up to play on a higher team for a game they were missing a player or something, and I'd go and get 2 3 goals. Like clearly that was a better fit for me, right? But at the end of the day, I played my best that I could, and I got placed on the team that I did, and I was just there to play my hockey game. And that's it.
Do you think there is that part in the next generation where you have also begun to accept that, whereas other communities perhaps wouldn't accept having? Obviously, you were 8 and 9. I mean, I hadn't realised your age, so you wouldn't have really have realised that. But do you think you are of the same sort of thought of actually, do you know what? We'll just carry on. This is normal. We should carry on.
Uh, yeah, I do think that that's the better approach instead of just oh, there's racist people here. Let's just leave, right? It's better to face it head on and confront them or not confront them. Don't let it take away something you love, right? I would have hate for those people to be the reason that I can't play hockey anymore, right? So no matter what, I was gonna show up to the rink every day and play my game.
I'm just going to change direction slightly.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
We have started this on, most of this we have spoken about Desi parenting. Is there anything, Mehtab, that you've seen from growing up from your parents that their Desi parenting is driving you crazy?
Ooh,
Putting you on the spot there.
that's
And Navneet's
tough
got
one.
a big smile on her face, so it's like, yeah, go on then.
I'm not
Sure,
getting rugby
it's not a
tonight.
Because we've all probably done the same thing, Dari. This is where I'm learning because my kids are young. I'm like, don't do this
Yeah.
because Mehtab said this. He's obviously very wise.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I guess my mom will still tell me like, what are people gonna think? For example, with the school thing, right? At the end of the day, it still occurs into her mind because that's how she was raised, right? And she'll tell me that, and I'll remind her, Mom, that's not the right way of thinking anymore, right? It's my life, and I need to live it how I want to live it, and just sort of a reminder of bringing ourselves back to the new way of thinking, right? Um, you have any more? I'm not too sure.
Obviously, you've done an excellent job. There's not anything else that he needs to say in regards to that. Just stop
Yeah.
that, Navneet. Stop saying what will people be thinking.
Yeah, so right, but again, that's how we break the cycles,
Yeah.
is by learning, being open to that. Then I gotta catch myself. Okay, no, you're right, Mehtab. I can't worry about that. Because I'm here to support who you want to be, not what I wish or how I want you to turn out. Right? That's not what it's about. My nurturing and my upbringing of you is so that you be the best person you're supposed to be. Right?
Yeah. And to be honest, that's about it, really. I'm very lucky the way I've been raised. I haven't had to deal with much of the downsides of typical Desi parenting, and I'm grateful for that.
We're going to leave it there and say, Navneet, Mehtab is an absolute credit to you. So,
Thank you.
congratulations. And we are going to give your mother all the credit here because I haven't met your
We are.
father.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, for sure. No, she deserves it.
But I've learned so much from this, and this is something I'll be going and talking about this episode as well, where I'm like, actually, no, I need to change the way, because I think the conclusion that I'd like to finish on is the communication between you both. Navneet, you say something, perhaps it's right in your mind, but Mehtab has seen it different, and that's what's coming across to me. It's that communication that you've got between yourselves that is beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I've tried to tell, right? Sometimes I'll say, this is how it is. And at the end of the day, he will take it. He'll think about it. He'll break it down. He sometimes comes back to the conclusion, Mom, you were right. But I gave him the opportunity to figure it out. That's the difference.
Madame, I'm going to leave the conclusion of this podcast with you, what advice would you give to our listeners who tend to be of our generation? What would you say that we need to change, do you think?
So I guess the thing is, obviously, you guys are aware of what you didn't like about the way you were raised and that sort of thing. So,
And also the things that we did enjoy. It's not all bad. Just saying.
oh yeah, for sure, of course, yeah. Like there's the traditions of our culture, such as family, is super important. We always look out for others, right? No matter what. Um, and those values were instilled on me, just as they were instilled on my mom. And we can't forget those sides, right? But of course, there are the negatives that you guys felt, and I guess just before you take any action, or before you say that this is the way to do it, this is, just take a second and think, okay, what if I was in this situation? How would I wish my parents to have handled this, right? And then from there, make the more uh, logical answer, or solution.
And on that point, thank you so much, both of you, for joining us on this podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's goodbye
Till
from
next
me.
time.
It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.